Thank you, Mr Speaker.
Honourable Shane Jones.
Deputy Speaker, tēnā koe. Sir, I stand along with my colleagues and say that we will support this bill going to the Select Committee, and unfortunately it is a pale imitation of what it could have been. But sir, I want to direct our attention, and hopefully it will enjoy some serious consideration at the Select Committee, because it actually does raise some grave issues. And there's an irony that part of the bill's architecture is designed to strengthen the connection between monetary policy and fiscal policy. Yet this is a government, sir, that has taken a very laissez-faire approach to the relevance of monetary policy in the operation of the economy. But also, sir, it makes, I will come back to monetary policy, sir, but before I go much further, it talks about managing the impacts of current policy on future generations. Sir, nowhere is that more relevant than in dealing with the difficulty of New Zealand and its 4.5 roughly million people and an ageing population. An ageing population that is going to create a further burden on the ability of future taxpayers to meet not only the cost of the pension, but the costs, and they will grow, sir, medical costs associated with our ageing population. Now, sir, I bear no ill will to anyone over the age of 65. And indeed, sir, we need to cherish that part of our legacy, that we've got respect and a willingness to care for those who leave the workforce. But, sir, unless a bill of this nature impels the government of the day to take tough fiscal stances in relation to such an issue, it's a sop. That unless, sir, we deal with the age of eligibility, unless, sir, we deal with the long-term costs of our current pension policy, then we are, sir, creating a set of fiscal constraints and fiscal difficulties that future generations are going to struggle with. Now, sir, therein lies a further conundrum within this bill. The people we are asking to bear the cost of our ageing population are the very ones, in many respects, that are being starved by the current government's approach to human capital formation, education, training, vocational development. And, sir, when we talk about the usage and the allocation of resources efficiently and effectively, the bill is totally silent on how, sir, a government, or how this government, is using the levers of fiscal policy to invest in the current generation of school leavers, the current generation of what we might say in Te Ao Māori, the rangatahi, to ensure that they've actually got educational attributes, applicable, applied skills, sir, to meet the costs of this ageing grey mob. So we cannot actually understate the importance of that challenge, which is why, despite the fact from a machinery point of view we look forward to dealing with this bill on the relevant Select Committee, we are disappointed that actually, sir, the bill is silent on such large challenges as the one I have briefly adumbrated. Sir, monetary policy is now a key battleground. Unfortunately, up and down the maraes, the halls, the villages, the shopping malls, etc. of Aotearoa, it does not rate very highly. But the reality, sir, is that those of us who seek to influence and transform the nature and the trajectory that the country is on are going to delve deeply into the operation of monetary policy. So, sir, whilst the bill correctly acknowledges that the Reserve Bank has exclusive authority there, sir, the bill avoids making an improvement which my colleague David Cunliffe, David Parker, Clayton Cosgrove have reminded me was that too much power in the hands of one individual. Now, sir, I believe that the current leader of the Green Party is entitled as a parliamentarian to express his exasperation and his views about the probity, the independence, etc. of the current Governor of the Reserve Bank. It's not a view that I have about that individual. That Mr Norman is entitled to do that, sir, but the deeper problem is not to do with the independence of the personality, so it's to do with the principles upon which they are operating. And this bill is spectacularly silent on how the current monetary policy operation is imperiling our ability to grow. And the government, sir, whilst it makes this sop, I guess, to one of their coalition partners, it misses an amazing opportunity to point out that unless you change the parameters, unless you change the writ that the Reserve Bank is required to work to, then you are going to straitjacket the ability of fiscal policy to play a more meaningful role if it's going to be conquered by an unnecessarily high dollar, and secondly, sir, a very narrow set of monetary applications. And this bill, sir, either avoids that or it reflects the fact that that's not part of the belief system of the current government. And they're entitled, sir, to run the economy in that fashion. It's a type of operation I thoroughly disagree with. We don't endorse, but as much as it pains us, they currently have the democratic authority to do that. It's only a shame that employees will be deemed to be superfluous, businesses will fail, and exports will diminish whilst they keep going on this irrelevant and most egregious course of action. So, in relation to the impact of fiscal policy in key social areas, the bill needs to ensure that it doesn't constitutionally condemn one parliament to unwisely follow the fiscal priorities and the fiscal strategic areas of interest that the current government is pursuing. Rest assured, sir, come 2014, there will be a happier mix of policies, there will be a more vibrant mix of ideas that will comprise fiscal policy on this side of the House. And whilst this bill, sir, does codify a set of standards that a future government might need to observe, this bill must not defeat the key constitutional principle that one parliament, in our version of the Westminster parliamentary democracy, sir, cannot bind a future parliament. Because woe betide, sir, that we should be condemned to follow on what Bill English and his colleagues are doing at the moment. Not only do we see record numbers of young people with no hope in relation to the job market, I don't need to state again, sir, how many of us have watched fellow Kiwis disappear over to Australia. And so a fiscal policy has to ensure that they find a reason to continue to commit to their own country. They'll do that, sir, if firms invest, communities are vibrant, and people have an economic purpose for wanting to continue to give to their own country and find a little bit of sunshine to create a family and build a better place for their children. This bill, sir, says nothing about that. All this bill, sir, really does is just regurgitate a whole bunch of things that Treasury does on a regular basis. Much of it is arid and likely to be totally disinterested and of no interest to the average voter. But, sir, it is, it's one level it's facile, but, sir, it does remind us that the stewards of the nation in terms of fiscal policy do need to have a set of transparent standards. But, sir, that fiscal policy has to be relevant to the economic and social challenges of the time. And the current fiscal policy is driving us not in the wrong direction, it's driving our people out of New Zealand. It's driving the very young men and women who, as the Aussies would call it, tradies, those with valuable skills, disappearing over there, and whilst at the same time, sir, those that are left behind and want to acquire valuable skills are being starved out of opportunity and placed in our various tertiary institutions. So, unfortunately, sir, the bill says nothing about that. The bill, however, does codify a set of principles, given that they flow, sir, in a direction that the majority of us see as being sensible. It's only disappointing, sir, that this bill is totally silent on the issues that count. However, sir, we will look forward to dealing with the bill and those redoubtable souls who might find time to come and give us their views about this bill in the future. Thank you very much, sir.
Maggie Berry.
Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak to the Public Finance Fiscal Responsibility Amendment Bill at its first